Hey guys! Sorry, I just felt like doing that again for some reason. Anyways, since we get a Kakania banner in like 8 or 9 days or something like that, it's coming up, I thought it's a good idea to look at Kakania and figure out how to play her. So what is Kakania all about? She's all about a mechanic called empathy. That is included in her Insight 1, so let's read that real quick. When attacked, Kakania directs 50% of the damage taken by other allies to her. When Kakania takes damage, 10% of the damage that she takes is stored as empathy, which can store up to 20% of Kakania's maximum HP. Once empathy is full, Kakania can no longer take damage on behalf of other allies. Very simple, whenever one of your allies would take damage, 50%, so half of the damage that your ally would take, is now instead directed towards Kakania, and Kakania takes the damage on his behalf. That is what Kakania is all about. There is nothing else to this character, and she is very simple when it comes to her actual gameplay. Let's read her Insight 3 as well real quick. Whenever empathy stores up, you recover HP for all allies. You heal all of your allies whenever Kakania takes damage, which is all the time whenever an enemy attacks. And when she's being healed, then you deal some Genesis damage to all enemies. Splendid. Now onto her Incantations. Let's check out Incantation number 1. First, it's a one target attack. It deals 180% mental damage, which doesn't hit the number, it should be 200. But you deal additional Genesis damage depending on how much empathy you have stored. More onto that in a second when we look at things in battle. Then her Incantation number 2, that is the one that is really important. It is a buff incantation called Association. It's a one target buff, and it has two different effects. One is, when you cast it on yourself, you heal yourself. Easy as that. But when you cast it on an ally, you lose a little bit of your max HP, it's a tiny little bit, and you grant a buff called Solace to your target for 2 rounds. Solace is a gigantic increase in attack. It is plus 400 attack and an additional attack value based upon how much empathy you have already stored. You always want to use this Solace buff onto your main DPS to increase its attack by an incredible amount. And you see that this, like, Kakania as a character is very unique. She, like, pretty much everything she does, no other character in the game does that. And the things that she does are super fucking good. She was a top tier character, one of the best characters in the game, in fact, for a very long time, for a reason. You know, the overall sustain that she provides to your team is only matched by Fatutu. Fatutu outclasses her, of course, by like a gigantic amount of things, like, and everything, but it doesn't matter, right? This is still, it provides so much bulk to your team. It's incredible, because, you know, every time an ally takes damage, it's only half of the damage, and the other half goes to Kakania, and then you can just simply heal yourself with Kakania, as she will take damage with this Association buff. You can also use this buff in case you wouldn't need to heal yourself onto an ally to increase his damage by a ridiculously high amount. But enough talk, let's check how everything looks in battle. Here we are, let's just roll the clip and see whatever happens. So as I said, there you go, this is the empathy that you can store. You can see you can store up to like almost 4,000 empathy. And whenever one of your allies would now take damage, you would store half of it, or a certain percentage of it, as empathy. And you want to store as much empathy as possible. You, in fact, if possible, you want this empathy to be fully stored before you use your ultimate. Because the more empathy is stored, the more damage you will actually deal with your ultimate. And you have to remember that when this empathy is fully stored, Kakania loses the ability to take damage in behalf of her allies. So you will have to, at some point, get rid of this empathy storage. You will have to empty it out, and the only way to do so is by using your ultimate. Other than that, you can see that you always want to use your buff incantation. That's what you're all about. You want to use this to buff your main DPS and or in order to heal yourself. And that's really about it. That's really Kakania in a nutshell. Here we unlocked her ultimate, so we're gonna take a look at that right now. You see this here. You deal 400% mental damage to a target, plus damage, additional damage based on how much empathy you have stored. And you could just see that my empathy is not fully stored yet. So I refrain for the time being using my ultimate. I don't want to use that ultimate until my empathy is fully stored, so that I can deal as much damage as possible with the ultimate, right? And yeah, see, that's Kakania. Keep an eye on how much empathy is stored. If empathy is fully stored, get rid of it by using your ultimate. That will deal a tremendous high amount of damage. Other than that, use your buff incantation on your main DPS or in order to heal yourself. And that's about it. Your other incantation, the incantation number 2, you should refrain from using it as much as you possibly can. You would only ever use the incantation number 2, this one right here, to gain like additional moxie on something like that, right? But in general, you don't want to use it. You want to use your ultimate once your empathy is stored, and your buff incantation to heal yourself or to buff your main DPS. And that's how you play Kakania. It's very simple, very straightforward. There's nothing complicated to it. And now let's take a look at what psycube Kakania should actually use and how that one plays out. There's only really one option that Kakania has available for herself when it comes to beneficial psycubes, and that is her signature psycube called the Fighter's Best Wishes. What it does is, first of all, it gives you flat HP increase. That is very, very beneficial, because your buff, the heal that you gain from your buff incantation scales depending on how high Kakania's max HP is. Very, very good. You heal yourself more if you increase your max HP. Then, at the start of the round, if the carrier's current HP is below 60%, which is very, very likely for you to be, because remember, you take damage in behalf of your allies. And then, not only do you take 10% less damage, but you also deal more Genesis damage, which, remember, every time you heal yourself, which happens every single time an enemy attacks you, you deal a certain percentage of Genesis damage to all of the enemies. So you do this every single turn, multiple times. And here with this psycube, you increase this exact Genesis damage. It's really a match made in heaven. If you don't have this, then it is of course purchasable in the shop. If you can't afford it, even though you have Kakania, then you can use pretty much whatever psycube is beneficial for healers, except for the Dead Inquisitive Deer, because here you would need to use a debuff incantation. Otherwise, this psycube is completely useless, so keep that in mind. I did a video about psycubes in general. Here you could also use a Brave New World. like whenever you use your first of all you make use of the ultimate might, and whenever you use your ultimate, which you will have to do on a regular basis because you will have to get rid of the empathy storage, and then your next incantation deals 20% more damage, which is also good because your incantation number 2 is all about dealing damage, you know. But yeah, like it doesn't matter if you don't use the fighter's best wishes here. It really doesn't matter what other psycube you use for Kakania. This one here is by far the best and the one you should use. Let me know if you will actually pull for Kakania, which by the way is not recommended. Kakania is outdated, is very outclassed, even though she has like unique stuff, but it is not worth the support slot in a team which Kakania would fill. There are so many better options right now. It is never truly worth to play Kakania. Even her best in slot in the poison archetype team will be lost to Jessica once Jessica unlocks a Euphoria update in version 2.8. So there is no space for Kakania anymore. She doesn't have a best in slot. That would make her a slottable character. And remember that slottable characters are pure garbage from the 2nd anniversary and onwards. And that's about Kakania, guys. Still, let me know if you wanna pull, if you will pull or not. And other than that, that's it for the video. Have a great day, take care of yourself, don't forget to join the Discord server, and we love this game.